The Secrets of Disney is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What's there, Mama?
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck.
How do you do?
How do you do what?
Show me the smile.
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Very nice. You can sit by me.
Everything's so wonderful.
Come on, get up. Come on, get up.
Where are we going?
Up to Neverland.
You must kiss me.
Excuse me?
Please, princess.
One kiss.
Unless you beg for more.
Hi there, and welcome to another edition of The Secrets of Disney. And I'm Deborah, one of your hostesses, and joining me, as usual, is Sherry.
Hello.
We are going to talk about something today that has been very timely because I have been giving out advice on this particular subject, which is how to deal with crowds, especially around the holidays, with Walt Disney World and not just Walt Disney World, a lot of places, everybody's planning their Christmas and Thanksgiving and holiday vacations, and a lot of people will, get to the point where if they have young children like Sherry does, where you're kind of limited if you don't want to take them out of school, to Thanksgiving and holiday and, the big major holidays to take them on a little getaway. So today, that's what we're going to talk about.
Yes, it is a challenge when you have little kids.
Yeah.
Very, very much a challenge. Or even if you're just older. If you're older and have little patience, it can be very challenging.
Here's the premise of why I picked the subject this week is that as most of you know, I do holiday or I do planning for vacations, and I'm planning a California vacation for some government employees. Actually, there are no little kids involved in this. It's actually people that work at the university and for the U.S. Postal Service. And so if you're like a government or state employee, you kind of get, maybe Christmas off because that's like for me, I get a week off every week, every year, no matter what I feel about it, to celebrate Christmas because I work for the University of Nebraska too. And they basically are like, your office is closed, get out. So I get a great vacation over Christmas, whether I wanted it or not.
Some people would be so jealous of you.
Right.
Because of a forced vacation.
Well, and I had the opposite problem at Disney when I used to work at Disney was that all hands on deck. Like you were very lucky. Yeah. Like I remember many, many, many Thanksgiving, Christmases, and New Year's Eves where I was working until, park closed until 2 a.m, 3 a.m, or, where, we'd watch the fireworks at midnight on New Year's Eve while working. It was fun. I wouldn't take that back in a heartbeat, but But, there's certain things that we learned about dealing with the crowds, especially really dense crowds over the holidays. So perhaps Sherry and I have some good tips for you today.
Hopefully. And it's not just in the holidays, although those are the worst times. I avoid the parks like the plague when it is a holiday because it's just going to be crazy crowded.
I used to have, before I moved back to Nebraska, I used to have a no Disney during Christmas week rule. Unless I had to, like I was not going to go there personally myself during Christmas week just because, but like I said, some people don't have a choice. That's the only option they have.
Right.
And so we are going to start with one of the best things you can do to beat the crowd is to get there super early.
Yes. If you can stay in a Disney resort, it is more pricey, but it does come with its benefits, which is extra magic hours, which means if the park opens at, let's say, 9:00, the resort guests get in an hour earlier. So they would get in at 8:00, which makes for the park to be pretty much empty and especially if you go to rope drop, which Deborah likes to do, you can be probably one of the first people on the ride or rides.
Right. Well, you know, what I was planning today and yesterday, well, in preparation for this recording too, it's like, oh yeah. So I'm doing California Disneyland, and they have some different rules than Disney World. And one of the things that is happening this year is that new Galaxy's Edge, right? There's in Disney World, the new ride is going to be coming out December 5th, the Rise of the Resistance,
Yep.
which I have no idea. We'll have to do a little episode because I have no idea what that's going to look like yet.
I'm excited.
Disneyland is their debut of that ride will be after the holiday season. So, but I know that in Disneyland, there's no fast passes. And in Disney World, there are no fast passes for Galaxy's Edge. So you're just going to have to...
I think they will have them eventually.
Right.
But now there's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of those attractions that, okay, if that's your priority, and one of my families I'm dealing with, that is their priority. Like the father is his office is head to like tail every place covered in Star Wars stuff. It's really impressive. And so this is what he's been looking forward to for a long time. And he's going to have to probably, his best bet is going to go at rope drop or at park opening and try to get that done first.
Yes.
Because,
although, when we went, we found that going first thing actually was not beneficial to us.
Possibly, yeah.
Right? Because when we went in September, our goal was to do the Star Wars ride, the Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run right away. And so we got there right when it opened for the extra
about
magic
6:15.
hours.
Yeah,
right.
in the morning.
And we headed straight for the Millennium Falcon. And we ended up in a line that was, I think, about 25 minutes long, which isn't bad. It really is not. However, we've discovered that most people did that. So the next time we went, we actually went like, an hour later or something like that. And so we got there, let's say at 7:15 to Smuggler's Run, and there was no line.
Right.
So kind of test out the waters. Like sometimes it's great to get there. Like if you can be first, awesome. But especially since our extra magic hours it was 3 hours before park opened, I believe.
Right.
That we had a huge chunk of time that we could say, okay, we don't have to go right away, but let's go back in an hour. And then there was no line. It was wonderful.
Well, and here's the other thing I've heard too about that particular attraction is that also if you save it for the last thing of the day, like maybe an hour or two before park close, there's not very many crowds there either because all the crowds have moved over to watch fireworks, have done Millennium Falcon, have done the land in the daylight, and now they're going to watch fireworks or going to a different park or watching the nighttime parade. So that's kind of and that's Disneyland nighttime parade, meaning Disneyland, but Fantasmic at Studios, people will probably go to that at the end of the night. Or go over to Epcot or Magic Kingdom. Right. So that, I've heard that if you go a little bit before park close, a couple hours before park close, that the wait times are pretty good then too.
Yes, that's what I've heard too.
So
that's one way to avoid crowds.
And I just want to kind of give you an overall. Okay, so for years I watched park traffic from the outside of all the parks at Walt Disney World as an undercover security officer. And so I'd watch it day after day. And I'll tell you what, most people get to the parks between 10 and noon every day. So, that it takes a while to get families up and ready and breakfast ate. And, it takes longer than you think to park and get everybody ready for the tram ride and all that. So, you have a little bit of, I guess, quiet time, not necessarily a lot of parks open at 9. Some will open at 8, like Animal Kingdom. So you have some time where the park isn't as busy before that 10, 11 o'clock crowd starts getting there. So
Yes.
that's another reason I say get there early. The busiest time of day for the park is between 11 and 5 or 11 and 4. And that's when you get everybody's in the park, everybody who came in the middle of the day, they're there. And the kids aren't crabby yet, but they're going to hit the wall, around 3, 4, 5 o'clock if you have little kids. And mom and dad will too, there's only so much caffeine you can do. And then,
or
they'll
listening
want
to whining. There's only
listening
so
to
much
whining.
listening to whining you can handle.
It was always interesting also to see the park leave, because you'd always see kids in like partial meltdown leaving the park if they weren't asleep. So, so it's that. And, especially for little kids, many times they won't be able to stay awake past like the first parade or fireworks or like 7 or 8 o'clock. So something to think about, especially on the most coveted of busy nights, which is New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve and 4th of July. Because that's the other thing is like, I think, there is a point where the parks will shut down and there'll be max capacity on especially Christmas and especially New Year's Eve. So if you're planning to do that by 10 o'clock in the morning, you best be at Magic Kingdom or else you might not get in. Like they'll run out of parking. That's how.
I just think it's crazy to even think about going on those days. Why would you do that to yourself? How would you enjoy the park knowing that it might hit capacity? That's crazy. A lot of people do it though because it hits capacity, but yeah, crazy.
And here's the other thing too: is like on those days where it might hit capacity. The thing is, Magic Kingdom's going to go first, followed by Animal Kingdom, and then followed by Studios, and Epcot will always be the last to hit max capacity because they can shove a lot of people in there. They really can. I think 80,000 people, and you can shove about 65, 70. It might even be 80 at Magic Kingdom, but the other two parks are kind of smaller, so it's their capacity is like 50,000. And so I know Epcot will, because they have the parking capacity and they have the space capacity to just shove a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
And
lots
it's not
of
going to be
open
pleasant.
walking space.
Yeah, okay, so this is true story. So I brought my friend from California came to spend New Year's Eve with me, and this was like 10 years ago, maybe 15 even. And so we decided after I'd get off work and I was working day shift then. So after I got off work, she was going to join me at Epcot, and we were just going to, spend New Year's Eve at Epcot. Well, at 6 o'clock, they start handing out those horns and hats. And it honestly felt and sounded like we were just walking through the largest flock of geese in the world. To the point where she was covering her ears and she's like, I need to get out of this. I can't handle this anymore. And and she's right, because it was just, if you have a child who has like sensory issues, that is not the place to put them. Yeah, it was way too much. But by 8 o'clock, they did an early fireworks usually, and by 9, most of the families with young children were out the door. So that's a good thing that they do.
Yeah.
Just
No,
to warn you.
Disney's smart. So what should you do if you do go with your family? Right? To try to minimize, or even just with your friends, right?
Oh yeah.
To minimize your own personal meltdowns, whether you're 6 years old or 30 years old.
44 years
40,
old.
Yeah.
And I'll
to be in the crowds. What do you suggest people do? Let's talk about the older people first, because we can definitely share about that.
I will be the first to admit, and Sherry didn't see this. She's probably very lucky she didn't see this. I had a meltdown by myself last September. Like it was overwhelming. I do have I'm one of those people that after a while sensory overload, and I have a bit of a panic attack. It doesn't happen very often, but I had to go find a quiet corner and breathe. Like I was breathing in and out And this cast member's like, "Lady, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, just step away."
Enter my personal space at your own risk.
Yeah, I just need you to mind your own business and walk away from me right now because I'm trying to get this whole calm down thing going. But if you're older, it does make sense to go early, go back to your resorts. If you're staying at Disney, go take a nap, go have a leisurely lunch somewhere that isn't the Magic Kingdom or somewhere that isn't a theme park is my suggestion. I mean, maybe you can't have that, or maybe you don't want to do that. But like, for example, a lot of places, especially if you're at the Magic Kingdom, if you hit the monorail and go over to the Contemporary, there's a lovely restaurant there that everybody raves about called The Wave. And then, Grand Floridian has the Grand Floridian Cafe and 1900 Park Fair and a couple other places to eat. And there's a tea room there. And a new lounge that's Beauty and the Beast themed.
Right.
I
want to
can't
go
wait.
check that one out.
Yeah, they just redid what used to be called Meisner's Lounge on the second floor of the Grand, and they knocked out. There used to be a store there for men's clothing that they got rid of. They're like, nobody's selling anything. So they knocked that out, called Commander Porter's, and they knocked that out and doubled the size of the lounge and made it a Beauty and the Beast themed lounge with Beauty and the Beast themed drinks. And it just opened like a month ago, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, we'll have to go check that out.
That's it. Or you can go over to the Polynesian and do a couple things over there. You could always go over to take a bus over to some of the other. One of my favorite resorts to walk around in that I always enjoy walking through because it's my favorite theming, and people can disagree with me. You're welcome to. Is Port Orleans. I love to go over there and just take a walk. And it's Southern themed. It
is nice over there. It is really nice over there.
Yeah. They have 3 different distinctive styles going on at that resort. So there's they call it the Bayou, so it's a little more swampy, which it's tastefully done swamp. And then they have they have 5 outer buildings that are designed like Southern plantations, but they're hotel rooms, and it is phenomenal with fountains and landscaping, and it's just amazingly beautiful for hotel rooms. And then if you go over to that's Riverside. If you go over to Port Orleans French Quarter, then it's it's New Orleans themed hotel rooms, and have a little squares and streets, and it's really cute, and it's just quiet and calm. And you can also get they have horse-drawn carriages in the evening if you want to get away from
the crowds.
And maybe if you're older, you don't want to necessarily spend all day at the parks. Remember that for the most part, there, with a few exceptions on the really, really busy days, you can go hang around at the resorts.
Yes.
And it's going to be calmer, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to discover a lot of things you didn't see before. Like I said, at Port Orleans, you can go fishing. You can rent little jet skis and canoes and that kind of stuff. There's a boat that goes from Disney Springs to Port Orleans that you can take, and they do a cute little bayou spiel on the boat. It's one of my free favorite things to do, and it's just very calm. And then you can rent bicycles and hang out.
There's lots and lots of activities at the resorts.
And you just pick the resort that you feel suits your personality, and we can go over that. Someday we'll have to do that. We'll have to talk about
different resorts,
different themes at different resorts, and how that works. So yes. I think that's, if you can come back after the crowd, like 8:00 after the crowds have gone, if you're older, I think that, and then go hit the rides that way, it usually makes for a much less crazy time, my opinion.
Yeah. A lot less stressful.
Right.
So
what would you say?
So one of the things which we've already talked about are fast passes.
Mm-hmm.
So to avoid the crowds, that's one of the best ways to do it, is to hop on the computer 60 days in advance and reserve your fast passes, and then keep getting them as the day goes on, because then you can just skip the line for the most part and hop onto a ride. Now, when you're walking around and there's lots of crowds, there generally is a pattern of flow of people. So just pay attention and walk with the flow of traffic. And I say that, and it sounds really silly, but there are a ton of people who are not paying attention, and they walk against traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what are you doing and what are you thinking? Personally, that would make my day horrible. So just go with the flow of traffic. And also look around at what's around you, because Disney does have walkways, right? They have the typical pathways that you can go. But sometimes it'll give you a refresh to walk through the stores. It's AC. It's generally less crowded because people are so focused on getting to the rides that if you just step, 4 feet to your left or right, depending on which side you're walking on, into a store, the stores generally are all connected. So you can walk straight on through, be in a little less crowd, and be in air conditioned.
Or out of the element if it's raining or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Or heat, because you got to remember this time of year, Florida actually gets a little cool in the evenings, and so does California, like jacket weather.
So it'd be good. Like it's the opposite. So of the cold and hot.
Yeah.
So that's good. I can give a little bit of, I guess, help in regards to if you have kids.
Yes.
If you are with kids, any parent knows you just need to be patient. And that's not just when you're at a Disney park. That's just life. You have to be patient. But when you go to a Disney park, especially when it's crowded, just imagine your patience level at home and times it by like 50, because that's how much more patient you need to be. Deborah has referred to the meltdowns. They will happen, or they have happened. You have to be flexible. If you're going to insist on going from ride to ride to ride, your child is going to have a meltdown because they don't understand what's going on and they are tired. For every one step you take, they take like 3, depending on how big they are. So to also avoid crowds and potentially avoid meltdowns, stop someplace where it's designed for kids a little bit. So I know we referenced in a previous podcast about at Epcot, there are a couple little play areas in Epcot. One is a little water play area and another is a little playground. So as you're walking around, remember that 50 times your amount of patience, and I know you want to get to all those things around the park, but for your own sanity, stop at one of them. Just stop for 15, 30 minutes.
Right.
And let your kid just play. Let them hop in the water. Let them climb on the structures. You take a break. Try to find a shady spot to sit in. That will help you in regards to your patience level and your calmness to also get a break. So it's not just for your kid, it's for you. And then when you end up getting up and going back into that crowd, you will have the patience and the inner calm, or however you want to put it, to be able to deal with the crowd and the crazies, because you know what? Most of those people are not going to be calm and happy. As much as Disney is the most magical place in the world, most people, by the time it's like 4 o'clock, like Deborah said, it's not just the kids getting grouchy, it's the adults too.
Yeah.
They're grumpy, they're hot, they're tired, and they want to hit up everything too. And and then all heck breaks loose. So that's one advice on how to do that.
This is Dom Bettinelli, CEO of SQPN, with a special message. The StarQuest Network is fulfilling its mission to explore the intersection of faith and pop culture, and in the past year we've reached stunning new heights. Our programs are reaching broad new audiences with a message that helps us discern good entertainment, make sense of the world, and share the gospel with others. We continue to launch new shows and bring back great shows. We just relaunched Secrets of Star Wars, which comes at the perfect moment to capture the excitement over the new show, The Mandalorian, and the climax of the new Star Wars movies. The support of our audience is vital to this work and has helped us grow closer to meeting our financial obligations. For that, we are very grateful. But we still need to close the gap. Every new gift extends our deadline, but until we eliminate our deficits, the future of StarQuest and your favorite shows remain in question. This is why it's crucial we hear from you this Advent and Christmas, the time when nonprofits receive most of their support for the year. If you're already a supporter of StarQuest, we are very grateful, and we ask you to prayerfully consider increasing your support at this time. If you are not yet a supporter, please become one now. We urgently need your help, and every gift counts. Could you give $15 or even just $10 per month? That lets us provide more than 40 hours of professionally produced shows with compelling content. We have special thank you gifts for donors at several giving levels. If you are a business owner or just want to provide a leadership level of support, we now have a special giving level for sponsors, like in public broadcasting. For $500 per month, you or your business can sponsor one of the shows on our network. Listeners will hear a message in every episode thanking you for your sponsorship and giving your website. We'll also have your name and link on the SQPN webpage and in the show notes of every episode during your sponsorship. Whatever level of support you can offer, whether large or small, please show your support for SQPN this Christmas, and remember that your gifts are tax deductible. Just go to sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. And may God bless you and yours as we approach the celebration of our Lord's birth.
Another quiet place, if you have littles like toddler age or even elementary, I imagine they would be okay with it. There is a baby care center in every theme park, and you open that door to like quiet, and like the Magic Kingdom one has rooms with rocking chairs and little areas to watch movies in, or to quietly calm down and take a little break from the crazy outside. And not a lot of people.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I say not a lot of people. Every time I've gone in there, not that I go in there a lot because I don't have kids, but every time I've gone in there, it's not that busy in there.
Yes, I agree. And even if you don't have kids, you can still go in there.
Yeah.
Go in there, sit down, take a breather. We went to the one at Magic Kingdom and they had water. Mm-hmm. So you can help yourself to water so you can stay hydrated and cool. So all that stuff, and that's free. It's free. Now, if you have a kid and you need diapers and stuff, I think you have to pay for that. But the water is free, and the sitting and relaxing is free.
Right, and they do have like microwaves and places to reheat food if you brought something, or there's also bathrooms in there, which I'm like, ooh, a bathroom with nobody in it. So that's always a treasure.
Yes, and it's cleaner because there's less people that go in there. Right. So
it might be
you don't
smaller.
have to worry about it.
Yeah, it might be smaller because it's meant for little people.
Yeah, so but that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
As long as you can get back up. You don't want to sit down and be like, oh, I can't get back up. That would be sad.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What you were going to say. What was your...
Well, I was going to say another way that we've beaten the crowd, whether you're a family or not. My husband, when we go by ourselves, we do this too, is we buy snacks, whether we bring in our own from outside the park or we get like a Mickey pretzel or something. But it helps us to stay calm is as you're going around, a lot of times people forget to eat until they get hungry. Mm-hmm. And then it's too late. You're grouchy, especially if you have kids.
You're hangry.
Yeah, you're hangry. Exactly. So what we do is we try to make sure we always have snacks on ourselves, or if we're like going from point A to point B, if we see some place that has a snack that we might be interested, usually it's at an off time. So we get in line, usually it's short, to get a snack at that point versus waiting till everybody gets hungry.
Yeah.
And then
this isn't no, so now that you mentioned that, the peak time to eat at a Walt Disney World park, and I know this from being in food and beverage, is 1:00 to 1:30. Because that's when, oh, hey, it's 1:00. No wonder I'm hungry. It's almost noon. It's past noon. And then everybody gets in line at once. And it's kind of crazy.
So don't go then.
Yeah. Always go like at noon.
Avoid.
A little earlier.
Or
it's
11:30. 11:30 is safe.
Or at 3 or 4 if you can hold out that long.
Yes.
I recommend that too.
Get a Mickey bar. And then go. That'll tide you over till 3:00.
Yep.
So those things, and then while you're in line, you can eat.
Yes.
There's absolutely no rules about eating in line. So get your snack before you get hungry, especially if you have kids. And then while you're all in line, you can all eat, enjoy your food, because you're going to be in line for at least 20 minutes usually. It'll tide the time over. It'll make the line go faster. And you'll fill your stomach, so you'll never hit that hangry phase.
And not only that, don't forget to drink as well.
Yes.
And I have a non-Disney story that happened to me recently, which is, okay, so if you've heard my other podcast about the Camino de Santiago, the last time I was there, when I hit Santiago, my body kind of hit the wall and I got severely dehydrated. And I didn't know I was severely dehydrated and I lost control of my emotions and the fact that I couldn't stop crying. And so they took me to a pharmacy in Spain to, talk about my problems. And they gave me one of those electrolyte drinks, and I drank it, and I'm like, immediately I was like, oh, that was the problem.
I feel better.
I feel so much. I can stop crying now. I feel so much better. And that's the other thing too, is when I used to walk around on hot days, you can see when the kids are about to drop from heat exhaustion. You don't want to be that parent where you all of a sudden have somewhat of a medical emergency on your hands. So make sure you're keeping your little ones and yourself hydrated regularly. So while you're eating, also pound some water. Just start drinking it.
Yes. And this is just me, and I have to throw this in just because I was so happy, was on this particular trip, I had purchased a water bottle, refillable water bottle that came with a little filter in it. And I have to share this because I've gone to Disney many, many times. I've worked at Disney, and I really don't like the taste of the water that comes out of the water fountains.
What? The swamp water is not any good?
No, not at all. Not at all. And so, if you guys are okay with it, great, fine. But I bought this water bottle, and I told my husband, I'm like, am I crazy? And he's like, whatever. Well, and Deborah can attest to this, I stopped constantly to fill my water bottle to stay hydrated, especially the first few days of our trip, because it was crazy hot. And because I had that filter, it was able to get rid of the nasty, swampy, whatever flavor in the water. So I had no problems drinking it. And I actually, about halfway through the trip, I kind of was like, maybe this is all psychological. Maybe, just because there's a filter, I think it tastes better. So I tried drinking out of the fountain without the putting it in my water bottle first, and I spit the water out. I was like, okay, it wasn't in my mind. Back to filling my water bottle.
Oh, wow. I guess I never asked you that. I knew you were talking slightly about it, and I was just like, whatever, Sherry is. I was drinking my fountain water.
Yeah. But that's just me. I think I'm also spoiled because I am from Hawaii, and for whatever reason, I feel like our water I don't want to say taste cleaner because water is not supposed to have a taste, but
But it does.
it does. And I feel like our water doesn't have all the yucky, nasty flavors of whenever I travel anywhere else. I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to the Hawaii water and other water tastes gross. I don't know.
Growing up, I grew up in a very small area of Nebraska, very rural. And so the country kids would always complain that the town water, like I lived in town, the town water tasted awful, but the well water out at their farm was the best water in the world. So there could be something to be said about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, Anyway, I bought myself a water filter bottle and I was so grateful for it because I was able to stay hydrated the whole time. I did have to go to the bathroom a lot, which might be too much information, but it's better to do that than to pass out from dehydration.
Right.
Or to get headaches or, get even grouchy because you're there to have a good vacation. So it doesn't hurt you to stop for, a minute to fill your water bottle at a fountain. And there are tons all over the place. Or you can go in a restaurant and ask them for cold water, which they will give you. And then carry the water bottle in your bag and just drink it as you go.
Right.
Much better than any of the other situations that could happen.
Right. And occasionally I would recommend along with that, and you don't have to buy it at Disney, but you could probably buy it outside of Disney if you wanted, Gatorade or some sort of electrolyte replacement drink occasionally. If I'm not a big fan of that kind of stuff, but I'm learning to become a fan because of how it makes you feel if you're dehydrated. So that's something to think about. And, again, that's a crowd beating. If you're gonna have the endurance to wait out all these crowds, you gotta be healthy while you do it.
Yes. Just as a tip for what Deborah just said about the Gatorade, one trip we took with our boys, they were really young at the time. And again, I do not like the water taste, was I bought the Gatorade powder mix.
Oh, yeah.
And I got plastic bottles, just like you could even get a Gatorade bottle, drink it, wash it, because you can't take liquids on an airplane. I got the smaller one. I think they're 12 ounces. And what I did was I tried it at home and I found the right amount of powder to put on the bottom. And I drew a Sharpie line around the bottle so I knew how much to refill every time. And then when we were in the parks, I just would put the powder in and add water and shake it up, and there you go. And when you have a kid, that is kind of priceless, especially, they like the flavored stuff more than just plain swampy water. And it's a lot cheaper to buy the one canister of the mix, powder mix, versus the individual packets that Gatorade sells or Powerade or whatever brand you drink, or the pre-made bottles. Because per bottle, it's like, I don't know, $3 or something.
Right.
So that's just a tip of what we did one time to kind of keep ourselves hydrated.
So the other thing too, with crowd, and I think this is a hard one, is know when to say when.
Yes.
So if everybody is starting to lose it, basically, if everybody's starting to bicker, or your kids are whiny, more so than normal, or if you're, if you're finding it, you're kind of battling your family in some respect, it might be time to call it. Let's call it a day. Let's go home for a little bit and rest.
Yes.
You might get some resistance on that. No, we don't want to leave. And, that happens a lot, but it's just going to get progressively worse until your kids get that loopy. Some kids will get that loopy tired, like where they're just
delusional.
Almost delusional. And, so, when to say, hey, we're getting too tired. This isn't enjoyable. We need to leave.
Right. Also, if you're getting to that point, you can try to extend your trip a little longer in the parks. by going to the rides, I guess they're more shows that are sit down, that are air conditioned. These are some of my favorites, my napping places, like Carousel of Progress or the Hall of Presidents, or even PhilharMagic. That is my dad's favorite quote unquote ride. And he'll go in there like a dozen times in one trip because it's air conditioned, it's seats, they've got music. So take a break from running from ride to ride and go find all those sit down shows that Disney has to offer. And there's a whole bunch.
Like Lion King over in Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
If you're in Epcot, there's not as many shows, but there's a lot of little tiny shows. For example, well, like Impressions de France is one of my favorite shows, but also like go see The Voices of Liberty at the American Adventure, or go see, there's a Canadian group that does kind of like a bluegrass Canadian roots rock, and they have a little seating area, and so there's little performers. You can take a time out and let your kids watch the Chinese acrobats.
Yes, those are fun. The Chinese acrobats are awesome.
So it's so funny because I had a little kid moment too. Gosh, I had a lot of little kid moments this last time where everybody's like, hey, let's stop and watch the Chinese acrobats. I'm like, Chinese acrobats are dumb. Let's go. And so we stayed and watched them for a little bit.
Yeah. My husband likes to watch them a lot. Yeah, I don't know what he's got in his head that I don't like watching them. I do, but admittedly, I have visited China, and I went to a special, like, it was a monk, what is it? Monastery? Is it monastery? And they did a special exhibit for us that was so cool that I've never seen before or ever again, that it's kind of hard to compare. Because, like, this one guy put a bowl on his stomach, and then he just clenched his stomach muscles. Like, he literally just put the open side of the bowl on his stomach. He clenched his stomach muscles, and then they called up the audience. And I don't know, like 3 or 4 guys tried to go up there and pull the bowl off his stomach, and they couldn't.
Oh, weird.
It was like, oh my gosh, like whatever he did to clench his stomach muscles, he created a vacuum somehow that the bowl just stuck on his stomach. I was like, oh my gosh. And there are like many other things like that I was like, that is crazy. And I mean, there was some stuff that I'm sure would never appear in the United States because lawsuits would ensue. But anyway, talking about crowds. Yes, China's like that. Talking about crowds. One other thing I would say that if you have kids is Disney has tried to incorporate a lot of activities into the queue lines. So let your kids play with them. If you have a phobia to germs or anything like that, because the reality is there are thousands and thousands of kids touching the same thing. And I am sure there are thousands and thousands of kids wiping their snot, coughing in their hands, touching everything. Don't be afraid to let them touch stuff. Just let them do it. Let them have fun. It will save you. It will save them. Everybody's sanity. Just take hand wipes. Take alcohol, whatever it's called, the little bottles of hand sanitizer. And just before you get on the ride, put it on. Because the reality is even though queues that do not have all those play activities on them, there's the rails, there's the walls, there's all that stuff that your kid is touching and hanging on and whatever, just like the thousands of other people, including adults who, I'm sorry, some of them don't know how to wipe their hands, and some of them sneeze just like little kids. Right. So just take a bottle of hand sanitizer with you. Sanitize your kids' hands every once in a while. It's fine. But let them play. And depending on the ride, a lot of the times it's okay to let them play. You stand in the queue line and you move with the queue. You keep your eye on them, but you move with the queue. And then at a certain point, you call them over and they can join you in line. So you don't have to make them stay right by you. But you do have to keep your eye on them, and you do have to make sure that you call them over, because if you get out of view, unfortunately, they cannot go on the ride with you. So you don't want that to happen. But take the time, be patient. You're at Disney. There have been so many times I've been at Disney, and this is one way to deal with the lines and the crowds, is people hop on their phones. But you have a family of 4, and if you're all on your phones, you're not actually spending family time together. So try to put the phones away and engage your kids with looking at all the things, or even your friends. Like Deborah and I, this last time, went with our friends. We're all about the same age, in our 40s. And we spent the time chatting. We spent the time looking at what was around us and talking about different things. And that to me helps a lot with the crowds and the waits, because you're engaged. You're focused on the connection with your fellow people versus just, okay, let's get from point A to point B, let's go, and then that just kind of ruins things a little bit. So take that time to connect.
And we also have experience with, especially with tweens, them just not paying attention and just glued to their phones. And that's also something I don't know. I think it's healthier if you limit your phone time with your tween, for sure, so definitely. That they engage with the rest of the people around them and not always watching videos or playing games. Oh,
definitely. I completely agree. But I have to go. I have to go get my kids.
I hope you find this interesting. So you've been listening to Secrets of Disney on StarQuest Production Networks. To find links from this discussion and for previous episodes, and also to send us feedback and ask us questions, please go to sqpn.com/Disney. You can also email us at disney@sqpn.com, or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or on Twitter at SQPN. I'm Deborah Shaban.
And I'm Sherry Tamamoto.
And thank you once again for joining us on the Secrets of Disney on StarQuest.
Ta-ta for now.